Welcome to David and David on Real Estate. Join us as we explore the ins and outs of the real estate market.
Good morning and welcome to podcast 14 with the David on Real Estate.
And here we go again.
Oh, I like it.
Excited to do this again. And we got a beautiful summer day in the GTA and lots of business out there and lots of things to talk about as usual.
Absolutely.
How you doing, David?
I'm doing great, Dave. And I think I'm feeling like a lot of the other realtors and a lot of our clients are feeling, and I'm feeling a little weather happy. I'm taking a little bit of time. I'm enjoying the outdoors, and historically, I always get asked the same question: is how is the market doing? And historically, I always give the same answer in the summertime, because each summer, every single time the weather gets a little bit nicer, we go through the same exact cycles. Where people do tend to spend a little bit more time outdoors, where people enjoy the sunshine, where people go to the lake, where people go out to their cottages, where people get invited to cottages, and real estate tends to take a little bit of a backseat. It's still busy out there, but again, we are seeing still a shortage of inventory. And we are seeing things still move fairly quickly out there. So with the nice weather and the lack of inventory, we're not seeing as many transactions being done. But the transactions that are being done, the prices are still holding, and buyers are still out there looking for property. So it's still a busy market out there, but a lot of people are enjoying the really nice weather, the sunshine. They're getting out to their cottages, and they're getting their vitamin D from the sun.
Yeah, and that's the cottage market is a market that's really strong. We've talked about that a little before, and you can see it when you're up in cottage country. Even going through small towns, the one stop sign towns or one traffic light towns up in cottage country, but they've got 4 or 5 real estate offices in there. And when you drive through right now, you see people, like at the windows, looking at what's being advertised at the windows, all the time. Like everybody's curious, everybody's taking a look. Some are in the hunt, and lots of people are in the hunt. And we've talked about before, I think it's an enhanced market because of lifestyle changes that people have realized through COVID, and appreciating the outdoors and wanting that outdoor space and wanting that getaway space. And so that market is certainly buzzing.
Oh yeah,
prices are ridiculously high.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable, and which creates a bit of a frenzy for more people to try and, I got to get in on the market. I got to get something before it gets too crazy, right? So you see a lot of that type of activity right now.
Yeah, and historically for the cottage market, this is the prime time to really showcase your cottage. It's beautiful weather. And remember, David, when you go 3-4 hours up north, the weather changes also a little bit, right? So, but there's no better weather than now to list a cottage, to showcase your cottage, to show off your cottage. And there are a lot of people in cottage country that are really taking advantage of the heated market that we have, and they are choosing to list, right, because of the record prices that they're getting. So we are seeing inventory levels come up a little bit in cottage country. We're seeing things sell quite a bit as well. And actually, I think I read somewhere that your office is now open in the Muskokas, or is acting for people in the Muskokas as well.
Yeah. We've got we're in the Gravenhurst area.
Oh, very cool.
In Muskoka, and we've got some signs up there, and we've got an office that we use up there. And the reality is, most of the closings, we're still doing through our GTA offices, and most closings these days we're doing with virtual meetings still instead of in-person meetings. But we still have a presence up in cottage country. We've been doing, we've always done transactions in cottage country. We've been doing a lot more of it, and just our reputation's been enhanced for being up there. And we've got some signs in different places in the Gravenhurst area now, and in an office location. So it's exciting. It's exciting, and it's led to some more more inquiries and more questions, and we've done a lot more cottage transactions the last year and a half, I say, as that market has increased and as we've had more of a presence. And what happens, like with everything, we do a cottage transaction for one person, and they tell somebody else, oh, who acted on your cottage? Oh, Kormans did. Oh, sometimes, oh, I didn't realize Kormans does cottage, or they could do stuff up there. But the reality is we can close a transaction anywhere in Ontario, and we can do that from Mississauga or Toronto or our Markham office. We've done lots of that, and it's a challenge. Cottages are interesting. There's always interesting things. There's always title search issues and septic issues and sewage issues and water potability
issues and conservation issues, like completely different ballgame than in residential.
So it gets your attention when you're working on a cottage. And then I'm always curious, the beauty of the cottages and the beauty of the lakes and everything. It's a fun thing to be part of.
Yeah, it's a very Canadian thing to be part of too, I think.
Yeah. And I think that, we appreciate it, like you mentioned, with our weather, and the weather's great, and, feeling of getting out and things like that. I think we appreciate even more because we know we have a limited period of time to do it. It's not a year-round thing, although, a lot of cottages are used year-round, but it's different in the different seasons. But our spring, summer season is so short, here. So I think everyone just appreciates the opportunity when you get up north, June, July, August, up to Labor Day, and then then it changes, and then like you said, the weather changes quickly if you're 3 hours north of here too.
It really does. But Dave, what I enjoy a lot about your law firm, and I mean, I'm speaking from personal experiences, I find that when you cultivate a relationship and there's a level of trust with who you're dealing with, it's nice to be able to go back to that same place to handle multiple transactions that you're doing in a lifetime, right? So, if I'm doing a commercial transaction, if I'm buying a residential house, if I'm buying a cottage, that one client can come to your law firm and get, consistent service on everything they do. And I think there's a real benefit to that, right? For both the client and the law firm, there's a relationship there. You guys know me, you know how, my, some of my legal entities are set up, how all they sort of work together, and you're able to just give me good advice, and that trust level continues through everything that sort of your customers are endeavoring to do. And I think there's a big benefit to that. So a couple of years ago, when we started doing some commercial transactions, when we started doing some mergers and acquisitions, and you guys acted for us on all those, and it's been great. And that relationship keeps building. So I think it's really important for a law firm to cultivate that level of service with their clients and be able to be there for them, through all their milestones in their life.
Well, that's really nice of you to say, David. And that's, I guess, one of our goals has been achieved if someone like you feels that way, because we're certainly striving to do that. And, and we can't provide, every single type of legal service, that someone could come across. But a lot of the basics we do, we start with real estate transactions, but we can also do wills, as you know, and some estate administration. So we're doing wills and power of attorney for our clients all the time. And then on the commercial side, we do a lot of commercial leasing, industrial office leasing, things like that. So we do that for clients. We can incorporate companies and do small business transactions, purchase and sale of businesses and shareholder agreements and things like that. So, we provide a range of services, and we hope that every client will take advantage of that. And then, like I say, if they need a criminal lawyer, we're not doing that. We got to refer you out for something like that, so stay out of trouble. But we'll help you find someone if you need one. But we try and do what we do very well, and look after our clients. And it's great when we get to know our clients that way, because and the history we have with clients, and doing multiple transactions over a period of time, and then the next generation of clients. Oh, you did my closing so many years ago, and now my son or my daughter is buying their first property. Can you help them out? I love getting those type of calls. So it's great, and that's what we do, and we're going to continue to do that with our next generation of lawyers too.
No, it's fabulous. And again, it's about building relationships with one client at a time, right? I mean, yeah. If I bought a cottage and I had to go to a different law firm for them to close a cottage, it wouldn't be the same experience, right? But if I can go to the same law firm for more actions and you guys are able to assist me each and every single time, I think that works really well for the client.
Yeah. I appreciate your words, David.
No problem. So looking at some statistics and some numbers, I love looking at these. Just they really give us an overview of really what's happening in the market. And a couple of things here really stand out at me. The first thing being the average sales price. Okay, so year over year, we're down 1%, right? And historically, if we take a look at what happened towards the end of July 2020, that's really when some of the restrictions started getting lessened a little bit, and people really went out into the market in a really, really big way and started really transacting a lot in real estate. I don't know if you remember those times, David, but it was extremely busy, right? So just to see that just 1% off from those high levels in price is great. The month over month,
1% from a level that was, almost ridiculous.
ridiculous. Yeah,
it was. I don't see this as a downturn.
No, not at all.
It's impossible to sustain that.
100%, and that's what I tell my agents is like, I like stability, right? So when I see some of these numbers, I see that, it's stabilizing a little bit, which is exactly what we kind of want to see right now, right? Number of new listings down 42% month over month. So, that's concerning. But again, it's, last year, you have to remember there was a bottleneck, right? So nobody listed in April, May. June, we started seeing a little bit more listings coming on the market. And in July, all those people that didn't list in April, May, started coming onto the market as people started understanding what COVID is and started feeling more comfortable with the situation. So last July, there was an influx of inventory in the historical levels. So again, when I look at these numbers, it makes sense that we're seeing some lower numbers here this July, a year later, when we're comparing to that period of time.
Well, your explanations are fabulous because it goes to the old adage like that statistics lie, right? You can't just look at the statistics last July, this July, and say, oh, there's this change. You have to look, why is there this change? And your explanation of the bottleneck is 100% true. So you've got to factor that in. And then when you factor that in, you realize, no, like there isn't that much of a change. There was something unusual that happened last July.
Yeah.
Right.
If we look at the 4-month average of 2020 to 2021, I bet you the numbers are going to be very consistent, right? But when you look at July to July, I mean, the bottleneck happened. People didn't know COVID. People didn't understand how it impacts them. People didn't want strangers in their houses, right? So April, May, people just didn't come to the market. It was quiet when nothing was happening in real estate, right? There was a period where buyers are still looking, right? But there was zero inventory coming on the market. And then in the summer months, as the restrictions started easing, as the government started, letting go of some of those restrictions, people came into the market in a big way, right? So now when we look at what's going on this July, well, the numbers are lower. Of course they're lower, right? Because we're not dealing with the bottleneck that happened in 2020.
Right.
Right. But if you take a look at the pricing, it's only a 1% difference, right? So, I mean, that really speaks quite a bit as to what the market is doing, right? And the average day on the market is creeping up a little bit. Month over month, we're plus 6%. So, but again, if you take a look at historically what happened last year to what's going on this year, it's still, real estate is selling in record prices and timing. And the year over year statistics on the average day on the market are down 15%, which means that houses are selling 15% slower than they were last year. 15% faster. Houses are selling 15% faster this year, which is phenomenal, right? It's just, we can't keep inventory out there.
Yeah. Well, in a typical year, remember the world when there wasn't COVID. So forget about 2021 and 2020. In a typical July, what generally would happen to the market? What are the real estate agents generally doing in July and August?
A lot of the good agents, a lot of the successful agents are taking time off.
Right. They're busy like crazy in the spring,
Yeah.
right? Going like gangbusters from, February, March on, like right through June. And, and then they know that some of the clients are going to be disappearing too. People are taking vacation. We're talking normal years. People, kids are out of school, people are going away. They're taking vacations. They want to enjoy the summer months. So a lot of the busy, really good agents use the summer too, to take time off and catch their breath a little bit. And then they'll up again for the fall market, right?
Yeah. And Dave, I don't blame them because I know the type of hours that agents are putting in. These agents, they're working 24 hours, 7 days a week. They're hustling, they're knocking on doors, they're canvassing. It's there's a lot involved in transacting real estate. And I know that a lot of agents get burnt out by the time they come to the summer after the spring market, right? So
Right.
that accounts for a bit of the slowdown as well. If you have a loyal client that you've been dealing with for 15 years and they call you and say, hey, I want to list my house, you're going to tell them, you know what, wait until the fall. Fall is a better market, right?
Right.
And again, you're artificially manipulating the market a little bit by doing that, right? In the fall, you see number of listings go up, all the agents go back to work, and all of a sudden the machine starts spinning again.
Right. There's some that I know use the strategy. Well, we can put it up in the summer because there'll be less competition out there. There's less listings out there. We might, catch a little lightning in the bottle because we might get multi-offers because we're the only one in the neighborhood that's going up for sale right now. So sometimes, people will be able to take advantage of a strategy like that. But overall, there's usually this slowdown over the summer months, both because, the agents want to take some time and because consumers basically want to take some time, focus on other things and then gear up again for the fall, right?
1000%.
And then this year, we have these a bit of anomalies because we were prevented from having a normal market in the spring months. So it just pushes stuff into the summer. Well, if we couldn't do it in the spring, let's get it done in July and August, right?
Yeah. Last year, we really had no slowdown. The summer was busy all the way through. And that's unusual in our real estate market because historically, it doesn't transact like that. So it was very different for all of us. But, we were dealing with a pandemic and real estate was still, top of mind for everybody, especially in Canada.
Hey, we were just thrilled we were able to work. When you look back at it last summer, we were thrilled there was transactions. We weren't shut down and there was some activity and we could still be, running our respective firms and employing people and having some activity at whatever level we could do it at, right?
I remember those COVID clauses that we went through as well with your office. And, a lot of them, I remember dealt with transactions not being able to close, especially at the very beginning, just because nobody knew what the landscape's going to look like. Nobody knew if, the land registry is going to operate. Nobody knew if banking is going to operate. Nobody really knew how we would adapt and how everything would kind of roll out. And then very quickly, we found out that we were classified as an essential service, right? The land registry was classified as an essential service. The financial institutions were classified as a financial service. Everybody adapted to the work at home model. Everybody went digital. Your office went through a phenomenal transformation in how, you guys sign, how you interact with clients, and to a huge degree, it made it so much easier for clients to be able to close transactions with virtual signings, right? People didn't have to take time off work and come into the office and take hours of their day to come and sign the paperwork. They're just doing it electronically, and it's been working phenomenally well.
Yeah, no, it's worked really well. And I think that'll be here to stay, as things open up and we get back to a more normal life. I do hope we get back to meeting clients in person for the sign up, because there's still something to be said about the face-to-face meetings and having the handshake to congratulate someone. Like, it's a big deal when someone
It is.
buys or sells a property, or, it's their home, it's their cottage, it's or an investment property, whatever, so I hope we get back to that, because I miss that. But we certainly don't have to when it's not necessary. So there's just certain conveniences that have been developed, and that's probably here to stay, to some degree. So, it's funny how you look back at it now, David, over a year later, and you think it happened relatively fast that that the government decided we're essential services. Those days and weeks, until we got to that point, it felt like months and years at the time, when we didn't know.
The minutes felt long. I remember you and I were on a phone call, I think like at 11 p.m. at night, when that list came up, and we were,
Right.
looking where we are on the lists, our respective businesses, and
Right.
what the next day is going to look like. And I mean, I remember those times very clear. And I even remember, where I was, and the emotions and everything that we were going through. But,
And if I recall correctly, I think our list came out, it may have been later in the same day, or it may have been a day later than the Quebec list came out.
Yes.
That came out first,
Yep.
and they said we were not essential.
in Quebec.
We're shutting it down there, right?
Yeah. And you and we were talking about that just as the list came out, and we're like, oh my God, like, that's going to happen to us. What's everything going to look like? Now, I don't actually know if Quebec actually shut down real estate services. Did they shut down?
If they did, it was for a very short period of
Short
time.
period of
But,
time.
they weren't considered essential when the first list came out. And but then Ontario didn't follow suit, and I don't recall, but I don't think it lasted very long in Quebec, because I think they figured out there's ways to do it, and got it open again there. But I'll tell you, there was a lot of anxious moments there. And I still feel bad for some friends of mine that are in industries that were shut down, like way worse than what you and I have had to go through.
No, 100%, 100%. But I think these tough times, David, when you speak to anybody that has good character, and you look at their past, good character is seldom built when people have it easy in life, right? And I know that a lot of businesses, even in Ontario, that were shut down, like restaurants and then food services, they've adapted too, right? Like I talked to some of the restaurants around Streetsville, and they got really busy in the whole takeout aspect.
Right.
And they sort of figured that portion of the business out extremely well. And all of a sudden during lunch, during, hours that they typically weren't very busy, now they were, because they were doing food deliveries. And, a lot of them have been doing really, really well as well, right? So, the businesses that actually did pivot and adapt with the times and change their practices actually did extremely well during COVID.
Yeah, and some of them were able to get the outdoor patio areas up and running for those that had space somewhere that could do it. And if you remember back when they were first allowed to do it, it was a very temporary looking structures with pylons being put up to mark off an area, and that sort of evolved into much more permanent type of outdoor space with with plants and tents and decorations and sound systems and everything. And a lot of the restaurant and bar owners did a really good job of doing that, and I hope they're all going to be allowed to continue to do that. And I think the government, I'm hoping, will relax some of the restrictions that they used to impose on people for patio space and make it easier for them. They used to make it so hard for them to license patio space. And again, like, our seasons are so short. Like, let these people do it. Let us sit outside for a few months of the year instead of inside. Like, that's another thing. I hope the genie never goes back in the bottle.
Yeah, no, I agree 1,000%. And I think everybody's kind of looking for getting out there and going a little weather happy and patio happy. And again, that goes to exactly how we started today's conversation. Is people are going out there and they're enjoying themselves, and they should.
Yeah, that's great.
So I think today we wanted to jump into a great topic, and it's a topic that comes up a lot, and we talk about it a lot, and that's condominium status certificates.
Yeah, and it's an interesting topic. And in our last podcast, we talked a little about what happened in South Florida with the collapse of that condominium down there. And we know it's going to take a long time till they really figure out everything that happened that caused it. But it certainly gave a lot of people concern. There's concern for people in similar buildings in South Florida, but even people here looking at, I live in a condo too, and could that happen to us? And so how is our protection any different, or what type of risks do we have living in a high-rise building here? Could that happen here? And the good news is, even in Florida, these buildings don't fall down every day. This was an anomaly. It was probably a perfect storm of a condo built 40 years ago, built on a beach, and that we know from what we've been told so far was not maintained probably adequately over the years, and things shift, and it's built on a beach on sand. And then there's other factors with construction of a major project right next door that's causing issues to this property, and there was roof work being done. Like, there was probably a bunch of factors that may have contributed to an ultimate collapse. So everybody's scrambling now to look at their own condominium and say, how can we make sure this doesn't happen? So the good news for those of us in Ontario is that our laws are better, and quite frankly, than a lot of laws are in South Florida when it comes to condominiums. And that's like, we have things embedded in our condominium laws and the Condominium Act that ensure that the condominium owners take a look at their building on a regular basis and do studies on a regular basis within every 3 years to determine whether or not there's any potential major damage that has to be repaired. So, like, as in any building, even if you're in your own residential home, most of the time there's repairs. Every year you got to fix something. There's always something that's repair, maintenance, repair, maintenance, repair, maintenance. Eventually things have to be replaced because certain things have a life. A roof can be repaired many times, but it's got a 15-year life, or it's got a 20-year life, or a 25-year life, or whatever it has. Eventually it has to be repaired, right? So when you're looking at condominium buildings, it's no different. It's even more important to look at it because of the size of the structure. They've got underground parking garages with columns that support the whole building, the foundations there. People are parking their cars and banging into these columns all the time. And there's natural crumbling, right? So, so the question is anybody looking at this? Is anybody studying it, right? And as you know, the way the law works, you're mandated to look at this on a regular basis. Every condominium corporation in Ontario has to conduct what's called a reserve fund study every 3 years. And as part of that, that's exactly what they're looking for. They're retaining, engineers to look at it, to look at the structure of the building, to look at the parking garage, to look at the roof, look at the roof membrane, look at the elevators, look at the common element amenities, the swimming pool, all the other structures and everything, and figure out what over the next number of years is going to have to be repaired and just maintained, and what eventually is going to be replaced, and make sure there's enough money available to do those replacements as they come due.
And that's, that's really important for a number of reasons, right? But it's there to really protect everybody at the same time.
Right. And who owns the condominium? It's the same question. I'm sure luckily having discussions in Florida, right? With this building, it's owned by the people that live there. It's owned by a lot of the people that unfortunately were killed in this accident. And some of those people probably attended meetings, because there'd be an annual meeting every year to discuss the budget and discuss what has to be repaired and what has to be replaced and money that has to be spent to fix the building. And some of those people probably voted against spending that money because they're the owners. It's not the people that built it 40 years ago. Okay. It's the same thing in Ontario. Some developer builds a condominium in Ontario. They build this beautiful project. They sell out all the units. So now people buy the units. Within a year of the corporation, of the condominium's first year, the condominium corporation is handed over by the developer to the actual owners of the units. It's their building. Okay, they own their individual unit and they all share in the common elements of the building. So the developer's job is finished. They hand it over. A condominium corporation is created. They elect a board of directors. They hire property managers to look after it, and they're on their own. Okay, now it's regulated. They got to follow things in the Condominium Act, but they're the ones now running the building. They're now the ones making decisions on every year to put a budget together, what has to be repaired, what has to be replaced, what has to be maintained. And then every 3 years, they have to do this more comprehensive reserve fund study. And every year there'll be a meeting of the owners, and everybody's entitled to attend and vote and decide what the budget's going to be for the year, and make sure there's enough money. And it's not the developer anymore. Okay. Now, if the developer built something and there were certain deficiencies that become apparent a year or two later, sometimes we see lawsuits against developers because maybe they didn't do something properly. So we see that sometimes. And there's Terry and warranty protection for some of that as well. But there's lawsuits, for developers that don't do it. But those are usually attacked very early on in the life of a condominium to get those things fixed. And then it's an ongoing process where it's the owners that have the responsibility to make sure that the building is maintained properly. Okay.
David, I'm going to ask you a tough question.
Okay.
And curious what your response is going to be. But would you, in your opinion, would you say that these bureaucratic processes that are in place are partially responsible for some of the high prices we're seeing in the condo market?
Well, that's interesting. When we look, not all condominiums are the same. Some are obviously more attractive than others. But if you're going to buy a condominium, you want to buy one that's in a healthy building, right? You look at the condominium status certificate. We're looking to see what the budget is. We're looking to see the reserve fund. We're looking to see how much money they've got there, and whether there's lots of money there and it's more than adequate. There'll be a statement in there whether it's adequate for the future of the building. So if you're buying something in a healthy building, you're going to pay more money to go in that building than if you're buying a unit in a condominium that doesn't have as much money in reserve fund and will have to replenish it, or you'd see that there's ongoing battles every year because there's a reluctance of the owners to spend more money to fix everything up to a higher standard. So those affect market conditions.
Yep.
Right?
And I think it's actually more important to buy in a healthy building than it is to focus on the actual unit that you're buying, right? And I mean, we all know those condominiums are on the blacklist and, have budget issues, have deficiencies, have structural issues with the parking lot, the elevator constantly breaks down. And there's nothing worse than living in a building that is, unsafe or unhealthy financial wise. It creates a bad situation. And I think a lot of unit owners take, that aspect of condo living for granted because they're just assuming that, I live in this building and, everything's being taken care of. But I encourage people to, get a little bit more involved, to really find out, what's going on, to look at budgets, to question some of these things. And a lot of the times there's always room for improvements. There's always room for process improvements. And, it's really important to get involved and really know what's happening in your own building. But I think you have an excellent point, David. I think there's so many checks and balances in our Condominium Act, especially with the 3-year reserve fund mandate that we have to really stay on top of all the issues, stay on top of maintenance, stay on top of the reserve fund, making sure that, everything's working well, making sure that, you have engineering firms that are actually looking at every single building and making a determination if it's safe, if there's anything that needs to be addressed right away. And there's even timelines for all those maintenance issues. So anytime you buy in a building, if you review the status documents properly and pay attention, I mean, what to really expect. if the building is well managed on a financial level, if the monthly maintenance fee is going to be increasing and how much it's going to be increasing. And you can do a projection of exactly what the major expenditures are over the next couple months, years, and decades even, right? You can see, the useful life remaining on the windows, on the roof. You can see what major expenditures are being planned for the parking facilities, for the elevators. And, if you really take a look at those condominium documents, very well what's really happening and what, the financial snapshot of that building really looks like. And it's really important to pay attention to that stuff. Because the worst thing you want to do is buy in a building that's not healthy or that has issues, because you're going to be stuck with those issues for a long time. A lot of these issues are big issues or major issues. They do take some time to get resolved most of the time.
Yeah, and it's important, in your role, as a real estate agent is just as important as our role as lawyers in understanding and reviewing status certificates. Like you don't want to take clients to show them unhealthy buildings in the first place, right? So you're generally showing them something that you believe from the best information you have that you think it's healthy, but you're not really going to know for sure until we actually see a current status certificate, not a status certificate from last year or 6 months ago or even 2 months ago. We want to see a current status certificate all the time. And some people have a misapprehension of what a status certificate is. It's not just the 4 or 5 pages that sort of summarizes, and that's actually called the status certificate. By law, the status certificate includes a whole bunch of other documents. It includes the declaration that created the condominium, it includes all the bylaws, it includes the financial statements, it includes the reserve fund study, it includes the rules and regulations, the budget. All that's really part of the status certificate. The insurance certificate, all the insurance information, make sure the place is adequately insured. These documents are all really technically, by the Condominium Act, considered part of the status certificate that has to be provided. So we need to look at up-to-date information on this to check it out. Okay, and what you're mentioning about the maintenance fees, and the other term for that is the common expenses. It's the same thing. So you're paying a monthly fee. Okay, the way that's determined is by an annual budget that's put together by the property manager, and it goes to the board of directors, and they approve it, and they bring it to the whole ownership group, and they vote on it. They say, this is how much money we got to spend this year to maintain the building. Okay, to cover all the costs. The landscaping, the snow plowing, fixing the elevator, whatever is in that budget, right? But there's part of that, an element of that is a contribution on a monthly basis to the reserve fund. So if you're paying $500 a month in your common expenses, it might be that $50 a month of that is going to replenish the reserve fund. So there's always money coming in to the reserve fund to make sure that's replenished. And part of the status certificate has to be a statement by the condominium corporation that how much money is in the reserve fund, and whether it's an audited statement or an unaudited statement for how much is there, and also a statement of whether that's adequate for the purposes of the reserve fund study to cover what's coming up in future years. And if it's not, that's when the condominium has to take special measures to try and replenish it, to do special assessments of some sort, or to borrow money to make sure there's enough money to cover those future expenditures. They know the roof's got to be replaced. They know the columns in the underground parking garage need some major structural work coming up in the next year or two. They have to make sure there's enough money. Okay. And that's the great thing of our system compared to the Florida system. There's lots of examples in Florida because they don't have that requirement to have that reserve fund study done and to make sure there's money in the reserve fund to fix up common elements. And There's many examples in Florida where the common elements just got abandoned for years because there wasn't any money available to fix up these things. And fortunately, a lot of those buildings didn't fall down, but people were living for many years in some of these buildings without having a swimming pool and proper parking facilities and the workout facilities, because there was no money to fix them or maintain them because they didn't have enough money in the reserve fund.
Okay? Wow. I can't imagine, not having that protection of the system that we have. I mean, life happens, and living in these buildings, there's complicated systems. There's boilers, there's heating and air conditioning units, there's elevators, there's some major systems in these buildings and how they operate. And if you don't maintain them on a regular basis and get them looked after, they deteriorate, and they deteriorate quicker than when they are maintained, right? So um, and it all affects value, right? So
Right.
the unit owners are thinking, hey, I'm saving $20 a month because my maintenance fees just got decreased. But over the long run of their asset investment, they're actually losing a lot more than they're saving by the lower maintenance fees in those examples in Florida, right? Because their asset is actually deteriorating in value, right? Imagine going to look at a condominium and asking a realtor, hey, let me take a look at the amenities, and the realtor is like, oh, sorry, but the fourth floor is off limits because it's just a little moldy right now. We haven't been using it for the last 4 years, right?
Right.
Like, I mean, that affects value, right? Would you want to live in a building like that and inherit that headache? Because at some point, it's going to have to get dealt with.
Yeah, and there's other examples in states, including Florida. Their whole system of real estate is a little different than ours. They have what in Florida for years they had what's called non-recourse financing, and that caused a lot of condominiums to get in trouble too. So here, if you buy a property, you buy a condominium, and you get a mortgage from a bank, if you default on your mortgage, the bank can sell the condominium to recover whatever, maybe they get all their money back. But if they don't, they can come after you individually, you personally, for the shortfall.
Right.
They sue you, and if you don't have money to pay, they get a judgment against you. Eventually they'll collect, or they can collect against other assets that you might own. But in Florida, they had a system of non-recourse financing. So they would give a mortgage to someone to buy a condominium, but the only security they had was the condominium themselves. So if the owner defaulted, they could sell the condominium, but they can't go back after the owner against any other assets. So we've had a few examples when the market really went bad down there and owners were defaulting on their mortgages, and they just said to the bank, oh, here's the keys, goodbye, I'm leaving. And now the bank's got the asset, sometimes which hasn't been maintained. The condominium owner wasn't paying their common expenses. A lot of other owners in the same building were in the same situation. The banks didn't want to pay for the common expenses. They're waiting just to sell the property. And now nobody's paying the common expenses. There's no money to maintain the building. And these buildings just deteriorated for years and got stuck because there's a bunch of units that were, that people owned, especially in a place like Florida, where people aren't necessarily living there. These are investment properties or seasonal properties they're going to use for a few months a year and stuff like that. And people are just walking away and not contributing to their common expenses. And all of a sudden the buildings had no money to fix things up. So the good news in Ontario, that doesn't happen here that way. We do have some buildings that get in trouble for various reasons, but we look at the status certificate just for that to see which are the healthier buildings.
Yeah. And one of the first things that we look at in status certificate is the unit in arrears for their common fees, right? Because that we take that very seriously, and one of the reasons we take that seriously is that the condo common expenses actually go in front of a mortgage when it comes to collection, right? And that's another reason why
Yes.
The system works and it's safe, and it's designed to really protect the condominium at all costs.
Right. And if a condominium owner is behind in their payments, the condominium corporation can put a lien on that property and sue them for it. And ultimately they could sell that unit based on the lien in order to recover the common expense shortfall, right? Because it's really critical to the building to constantly have everybody contribute.
Yeah.
And if they have to go that route to get the money, then they're going to get the money, because it's really, and I can tell you, from going through it with clients, and I've been on both sides of it, the fees that are charged by the lawyers that act for the condominium corporations to collect those lien amounts are outrageous to some extent. Like I've seen many examples, there's a $2,000 shortfall they're trying to collect, and the legal fees are $7,000, to put the lien on, to make demand, to bring a motion to court, to get the, to collect, to get the lien off, like far exceeds the amount they're trying to collect. But they'll get every penny of it. And if they have to sell the building, to sell the unit to get it, they'll get it, right? And once that lien's on, the owner can still sell their unit, but that lien's going to have to be paid off from the proceeds, like you said, ahead of everything else.
Ahead of everything else, yeah. But that makes the system safe, and that's really what makes it work so well, right?
Right. Right.
These rules are really designed to protect the building, right? To make sure that cash flow is not affected, to make sure that, if a major repair has to happen, that the building has enough funds, and it gives the building authority to, really conduct themselves that way. So, I mean, it makes sense. Like when I look at our condominium laws and all these safeguards and how registration works and how the reserve fund works and how everything's structured, the fact that, the buildings have to give a status certificate within 10 days of it being requested. Like there's a process for everything. And the process is there to make sure that it's safe, reliable, and that it works.
Right. And it's built right into the law. You request statute, you got to pay $100. Like, it's a statutory, the amount is controlled. It's not condominium corporation making up. It's $100. You get the statute. They got to get it to you within 10 days. And it has to contain certain information. And once you have that and we review it, you as an owner or potential buyer can rely on that information produced by the condominium corporation. So if it turns out they made a mistake or they made an error, that's now on the condominium corporation. You can rely on the information that they've given to you. And if they made a mistake, then you can go back against the condominium corporation for that. But like you said, this is all to protect the non-defaulting owner of a unit. If you're in a 400 unit building and you're paying your fair share of condo expense, you want to make sure everybody else is paying their share too, right? So that there's always money. So you want them to be aggressive and enforce it against everybody else. You want there to be the mechanism to enforce it, to make sure everybody else is paying. And that's why we have like a healthy market in condominiums here. Like it works because our laws are way better than what they're experiencing in Florida and some of the other states.
100%. So David, I have another tough question for you.
I love tough questions. I don't always have the right answers, but I love the questions.
So if you were purchasing a condominium that had a major lawsuit against it, would you go ahead and buy in that building?
Yes and no. How's that for an answer?
So we always have lawyer's answer.
Yeah. So we have to look at what the lawsuit's about, and that's what we do and review a status certificate. Now, when anybody is suing someone, sometimes they don't know what their actual damages are going to be, so they just name a number in the statement of claim. So what we find when we look at status certificates, a lot of times there's lawsuits against the condominium corporation, but a lot of them end up being for personal injury, like slip and fall type of thing. Someone was there, could have been an owner, could have been a visitor, and they fell somewhere in the common elements and hurt themselves. So they sue the condominium corporation. So at the time they issue the lawsuit, sometimes they don't know exactly what their damages are, or how hurt they were, how much work they missed, things like that. So they name an amount. So they might say, oh, it's $2 million, but their actual damages at the end of the day might be $20,000, but they name an amount when they issue a statement of claim. So we don't get scared off just because we see that there's a statement of claim issued for $2 million. We've got to look what it is. Now, if it happens to be a slip and fall, that's going to be covered by the condominium's insurance. So when we're reviewing a status certificate, we really just want to make sure they've got proper insurance coverage. So if it's something like a slip and fall that the condominium corp is being sued for, we know that that's going to be defended by the insurance company. And if ultimately an amount has to be paid, it's paid for from insurance proceeds. It's not paid for by the condominium corporation, by the reserve fund or anything like that, as long as there's enough insurance coverage. So we have to look for that. So something like that, we don't get scared of. We wouldn't tell someone, don't go ahead because there's a couple lawsuits against the condominium corporation, but they happen to be for slip and falls. It's no different if you go to a shopping mall and you fall in a store that because there was water on the floor. You might sue the store owner, but you might also sue the owner of the mall too, right? Or if it's in the common element of the mall, you're gonna sue the owner, but they have insurance for that. So that's really what that is. Now, sometimes we look and there's lawsuits against, a lot of times it's lawsuits by the condo corporation against the developer because there may have been deficiencies in what they built, right? Like I mentioned before. So sometimes you look at the lawsuits and it's really that. And sometimes as part of that, maybe the developer is counterclaiming for something that the condominium corporation did. Maybe they were supposed to take over looking after something and they're counterclaiming saying, well, you're alleging we built something deficiently. No, we actually built it good. You didn't maintain it properly in the first year or two. And that's why there's this problem. So sometimes there's a counterclaim. So we got to look at that and try and find out, like, what's, is there validity to the counterclaim and what's the potential to that? And then if it's a $500,000 potential claim against the condominium corporation, again, that's going to be divided up by all the owners and there might be monies to cover that. There might be insurance involved. So we got to take a look at it, but there aren't too many lawsuits that really scare us that much, but we have to look at the underlying factors behind them to see what it's really about. And if we can't get that information, sorry, sometimes the answer is, we don't know, and we've got to make a decision right now whether you're putting an offer in. And sometimes it's just because we can't get enough information, let's pass and go find another building where we don't have that issue because there's that uncertainty and we just don't have the information.
Sometimes a good situation or a good way to handle a situation like that is to do a holdback, right? Where the seller leaves $5,000 in trust for a period of a year or two until the lawsuit can be resolved.
Yeah, if we can get enough comfort factor that's an appropriate amount, that's what the most exposure could be to an individual owner on that. It's sometimes hard to quantify, but if someone wants the property bad enough, then we sometimes try and negotiate something like that.
Yeah. And looking at the lawsuit also points towards possible problem areas in the building, right? So if the building's suing the developer, right, they write in the lawsuit, they're like, okay, these are the issues in the building, right? So I mean, again, it kind of points in the right direction in terms of really doing your due diligence and understanding what's really happening with the building. So great source of information for that as well.
Right. And then we want to know, like, okay, if we know that there's certain deficiencies in the building, chances are those are all being corrected anyways. There might be enough money in the reserve fund and they may have already been fixed. And now they're trying to go back and collect some of that money back from the developer, or they might be in the process of being fixed. Or if they never collect from the developer, they might have enough money to fix it anyways. It's just a question. So the building could be physically healthy. It's a question of, can they recover some of that money from the developer or from insurance or something like that, right? So we sort of have to try and break it down a little bit and see what information is available. Sometimes, as reviewing these status certificates really quickly sometimes because there's a transaction we're trying to do, and sometimes we just can't get all that background information in time for a buyer to make a decision. So that's why I say sometimes we get to the point where it's, we just can't get enough information. We're not comfortable. So let's pass and find another building.
So it's so important to, do that 10-day condition with 3 days to review on status, because in the 3 days to review, I mean, in my opinion, that's not a lot of time, right? Because you guys have to receive the status, you have to go through it, you have to get comfortable, you have to explain to the client, and then the client needs to understand the information. A lot of times there are issues. The first point of contact is the property manager. Sometimes they're hard to get a hold of. It's not like you can pick up the phone, get a hold of them immediately. You're leaving a message. You're waiting for them to call you back. They're calling you back the next business day, right? So it all takes time, and 3 days is, when you look at the chain cycle and really having to dig deep and get the answers that you need, that's not a lot of time at all.
No, it's not a lot of time when issues arise. Now, fortunately, a lot of the status review, everything is really clean and there's no real issues, and we're happy to pass that information on, really quickly. So, go ahead, right?
Right.
When we're on these buildings where there are some issues, it's like you said, sometimes it takes time to dig down. And sometimes, we're involved doing it as lawyers. Sometimes it's the agents just, literally running to the management office and saying, I need 5 minutes. You got to explain this, show me what this means. We need some more information because we just can't get that,
Right.
otherwise. And we can't get them to answer an email or a phone call quickly.
Yeah, and they're really the best source of contact because the property manager would know everything about the building, right? They're dealing with contractors, they're dealing with engineers, they're dealing with property owners. So, they really are your best point of contact if you have any questions about anything in status or about the building as well. And you know what, these people are there every day and they deal with these issues on an everyday basis. So they're a great reference source, right? And get to know your property manager, because they can help you with maintenance issues in your unit. They can help recommend contractors that can help you out. They know when window cleaning is scheduled for. They know when there's maintenance happening in the amenities. So they're a great reference and a point of contact for everybody as well.
Yeah. And again, like we've talked about on so many of the other podcasts, it's a team effort between the real estate agent and the lawyer in reviewing, and the owner and the potential buyer in reviewing a status certificate. It should be in everybody's hands. Everybody should have it. Everybody should be looking at it. And we're all looking to some extent for different things. And potential buyer is sometimes focusing more on the rules and regulations. When can I go swimming? How do I have visitors here? Am I allowed to have pets? Are there smoking restrictions? Things like that. Lifestyle things are really important. They got to take a look at that. The rules
Can
and
I
regulations.
second parking spot, right? I mean,
where's the parking? Where's the locker?
Night, are pets allowed? I mean, the list.
Right.
Can I smoke on the balcony? I mean,
Right.
Where is the designated smoking area?
Am I allowed to have a barbecue on my balcony, or electric barbecue, or what am I allowed to, life stuff. So they got to look at that from their own point of view and decide whether or not, that suits their needs. Like, we're going to take a look at rules too, to some extent, but we're not sitting down with the client and reading every rule to them to make sure they understand it. They've got to take some responsibility and take a look at the rules as well and make sure that it suits their lifestyle. We can certainly point out if there's pet restrictions and then there's different types of pet restrictions. You can have a couple pets, but of a certain size or certain breeds, there's things like that. So there's an awful lot in a status certificate to look at, and it's incumbent on the real estate agents to be involved in that, and the potential buyers to look at it. And then obviously they need the proper advice from the lawyer too, because we're looking for certain bigger picture items.
Absolutely. No, David, I made some notes as we were going by. And what do you think about talking about wills and estates on our next podcast?
Sure. Always a good time. Everybody, no matter who you are, should have a will and should have power of attorneys. And it doesn't matter how much your potential estate is worth. I could certainly explain that next week, why it's always a good idea to have one.
Yeah, I'm guilty as charged. But that's something that maybe after the next podcast, I'm gonna get on.
I'll explain to you next time we do it why you should have one. I'll convince you.
Let's do it. I look forward to it. David, always a pleasure, a lot of fun. Really look forward to these podcasts and just hanging out and talking about real estate and talking about the law and how it affects real estate. It's always a blast, and I hope that you guys enjoy the conversation as well. Reach out to us. David and I are always available. We're always happy to take your questions. And we're passionate about real estate and the law. So any questions that you have, reach out to us. We'd love to get in contact and chat more with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. Just catch us, and look forward to the next one. David and David.
David on real estate. See you guys next time. Have a great week. Stay safe, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Welcome to David and David on Real Estate. Join us as we explore the ins and outs of the real estate market and dive deep to understand the issues affecting buyers, sellers, investors, and businesses. If you love real estate as much as we do, sit back, relax, and gain an insider's edge to the exciting world of real estate. David Gorski is a broker and the owner of Sutton Summit Realty, a powerhouse brokerage providing guidance to over 180 realtors. And David Korman is a partner at Kormans LLP, a respected law firm specializing in residential and commercial real estate transactions, with offices located in Toronto, Mississauga, and Markham.